హైదరాబాద్లో అంతర్జాతీయ ఇన్నోవేషన్ ఇన్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ కాన్ఫరెన్స్లో మంత్రి కేటీఆర్ మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. ఇప్పుడు అలా చూద్దాం.
Shri B.L.N. Reddy Garu, who is also an alumnus of Antena. Thank you. And I have lots of colleagues, lots of friends from JNTU. I have Raj Shekhar Garu here. Raj, I think you should just. Raj is a senior of mine, actually. He's far older. He looks young, but he's far older. He's also from JNTU. And I have many other friends. So just wanted to acknowledge all of them and thank you for having us here. About 2.5 years ago, Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi Garu, he had actually called for a meeting in New Delhi with all the political parties and representatives of political parties. And the theme of the meeting was how to, on the eve of 75th year of independence, how do we create new India? How do we ensure that the next 25 years, post 75, will be vibrant, will be, enough of time to make India a first world country? That was the theme of the meeting. So on behalf of the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, as deputed by our Honorable Chief Minister, KCR Garu, I participated in the meeting and I gave him my 2 cents. I told him, sir, if you're serious about making India a truly first world nation, making India truly a first world country, a developed country, in the league of the US, the UK, Germany, France, and other nations, we have to follow the 3I mantra. He was very curious. He said, what is the 3I mantra? I told him, sir, the first I is innovation. A lot of times when people talk about innovation, and even here in the Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, when we say innovation, people typically think innovation is only associated with technology, innovation is only associated with engineering, or innovation is confined to certain sections of the society. In fact, it's not. Innovation as a concept, innovation as a theme, innovation as an idea, in fact, can permeate into all spheres and all walks of life. If you think about it for a minute, see, we are part of the government, myself, Prashant Reddy Garu, we work under the Honorable Chief Minister. So what did he do in terms of innovation in the last 8 years? He's not just innovated in terms of engineering. He has not just given us enough latitude to create new institutions, innovative institutions. He has also innovated with policy. What am I saying? There was an industrial policy in the United State of Andhra Pradesh much before Telangana state ever came into being. But when the new state of Telangana was formed, our Honorable Chief Minister, he called various industry bodies into a room like this. He sat with them for 7 hours. He let them speak. He was hearing, he was listening. He let them speak. They all poured out their woes. They said, sir, there is no power. There is no guarantee when I'll get a permission. I don't know when I'm going to get my promised fiscal incentives, etc., etc. They reeled out a number of issues. You know what he did? He said, let's do one thing. I've heard you for 7 hours. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to start from scratch. I'm going to send a team of brilliant officers to various countries which have excelled in ease of doing business. We will take their policies. We'll take certain elements from those policies, imbibe them, form the new policy for Telangana, new industrial policy for Telangana, and we'll come out with our own ideas. This was in July 2014, just about a month after the new state came into being. By November 2014, in the Telangana state legislature, we had enacted a new legislation called as TS iPass. Now, what does TS iPass mean? TS iPass basically stands for Telangana State Industrial Project Approval Self-Certification System. Industrial Project Approval Self-Certification System. How did this come about? What was the genesis? What was the thinking behind it by calling it self-certification? When an entrepreneur told Honorable Chief Minister that he did not know how long it would take for him to get a clearance from the government after he or she has applied, he said, why should you even need a clearance from the government? Just like how you have a right to education or right to information, The investor also should have a right to self-certification. As long as you certify yourselves as being in compliance with the law of the land, why should you have a government intrude into that? That was the thinking behind innovation and policy with respect to clearances. And that's how Telangana today is the first state and possibly the only state in India where if you as an entrepreneur, any of you in fact, if you want to start a factory tomorrow, you actually don't need a permission from the state government. You don't need a permission from the local municipality. You do not need a permission from the local Gram Panchayat. As long as you certify yourselves that you are going to be in compliance with the law of the land. What do I mean by compliance? The pollution norms, the building norms, the safety norms. If you're in compliance and if you believe you're fully compliant, then you can hit the ground running. You can start construction of your factory on day one. No state in India will tell you that. That is innovation. Simultaneously, because we need to know who's doing business in our state, all we have put in the legislation is that for regulatory purposes only, you have to submit an application online in the TS iPass portal saying, this is the nature of the business, this is the quantum of the investment, and this is the employment I am going to create, and this is, the tax I would possibly pay to the state government. And what do we do when we receive that information online? By statute, by legislation that we have enacted in the state legislature about 8 years ago, we promise all clearances in 15 days through a single window, through a single portal. Now the joke in India is, as an entrepreneur, if you go to any state in India, they'll all tell you the same thing. We have a single window system. But the joke is, there are always multiple windows behind that one single window, hidden multiple windows. But how is Telangana different? Telangana is different because if we don't deliver on the 15-day window, on the 16th day, by statute, by legislation, it's an automatic, it's a default approval given to the investor. No state in India will tell you this. And most importantly, from the 16th day, even the senior most bureaucrat, even the senior most IAS officer, if he or she is held responsible for the delay, have the ability, I'm backed, I'm empowered by statute to levy a penalty of 1,000 per day. So that's how innovation in TS iPass has resulted on the officer, on the IAS officer included. That's how, because of this innovation, because of this reform, in the last 8 years, in case you're thinking, this sounds too good to be true, does it actually work? It has delivered brilliantly. It has cut down red tape, it has cut down corruption, it has cut down basically the time lag, the gestation period as an entrepreneur would call it. And therefore today in Telangana in the last 8 years, we have given more than 20,000 clearances through TS iPass. We have been able to attract more than 2.4 lakh crores of investment and have created, as Prashant Reddy Garu pointed out, more than 16 lakh direct job potential in our state for our youth. Now that's a simple intervention, simple innovation in policy. Just to give you an example. When I said the 3I mantra to the Prime Minister, the first I, like I said, was innovation. The second I is infrastructure. Now, what do I mean infrastructure? John F. Kennedy, when he was the President of the United States, had famously said, America does not have good highways because it is a rich country. America is rich because it has good highways. That goes to show you how important infrastructure is in a nation's growth. When I say infrastructure, I just don't mean roads or buildings. When I say infrastructure, I mean infrastructure of all kinds. Infrastructure will include power, electricity. It will include water, drinking, and also irrigation. It will include roads, buildings, of course. It will include social and physical infrastructure. Infrastructure can be of various kinds. Now, infrastructure is important for a nation like India because today, just to give you an example, if you look at the electricity needs of our country, we have more than 600,000, 6 lakh villages in our country, and we have a few thousand cities and towns in our country. 75 years after independence, I don't know how many of you know this, but India is still not fully electrified. Not every single village, not every single home in India actually has electricity, even after 75 years. You may have read in the newspapers recently, when our country recently elected the new President of India, Srimati Draupadi Murmuji, after she got elected, after she got nominated as a President of India candidate, her village in Odisha was electrified. This is a harsh reality. See, we are the privileged bunch sitting in Hyderabad, in a city like Hyderabad, and all other, in a state like Telangana, where we give 24/7 power to our farmers, where our power supply is improved dramatically after KCR Garu has become the Chief Minister. We are the privileged bunch. But there are still numerous villages, numerous areas which are languishing without electricity. Now, why am I mentioning this to you? Because the mismatch between the supply and demand again needs a bit of jugaad and innovation. Our country's total installed capacity in electricity is about 4,06,000 megawatts, all forms of power included. It includes firm power, infirm power, thermal, nuclear, hydel, wind power, solar power, all kinds of power, biomass, etc., etc. Now, the total needs of our country, the total electricity demand, the peak demand of our country, which we have ever hit in 75 years, was on the 22nd of June this year, on summer solstice. 21st of June is summer solstice, the longest day in the year, as most of you may know. This year, our peak demand was 2,12,000 megawatts. Our base load is 2,40,000 megawatts. Our total installed capacity is 4 lakh megawatts. Yet we have villages without electricity, yet we have houses without electricity. Now, why is that? Because of this gross mismatch between demand and supply. Demand is there, there's plenty of villages which are lacking. There's industry who wants to run in 3 shifts. And in Gujarat recently, in summer 2022, the Gujarat Vikas Nigam had issued a notice saying there would be power holiday for 2 days in a week. Fortunately, in Telangana, we don't have that situation. The point I'm trying to make is, we have this gross mismatch which needs to be synced. In this country, electricity apart, in this country, we are blessed with beautiful rivers, lifelines. We have Himalayas on the top, and there are rivers emanating from that. And then we have rivers from across the border, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from China, etc., which flow into us, from Bangladesh, and then eventually they flow into the ocean, of course. We have Godavari and Krishna in our state. We have Ganga, Yamuna, Chenab, Ravi, Satluj. I can go on. There's plenty of rivers. The total water availability in all the rivers combined in India is about 70,000 TMC. 70,000, 70. Now, the total requirement for agriculture in India, if you had to irrigate every single arable acre of land in India, is only 40,000 TMCs. And if you take also industrial consumption and drinking water needs, that will also add up to another